Have you ever wondered if a Supreme Court's decision could drastically change the landscape of an upcoming presidential election? Today, we're diving into an extraordinary moment in American political history that's got pundits, scholars, and citizens alike buzzing with speculation and debate. The Colorado Supreme Court, in a groundbreaking ruling, declared former President Donald Trump ineligible for the state's 2024 presidential primary. The reason? His involvement in the events of January 6, 2021, which some label an insurrection. This decision, my friends, marks the first time a presidential candidate has been barred under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Now, you might be wondering, what does the 14th Amendment have to do with all this? Well, it's a piece of legislation that's been around since the aftermath of the Civil War, but it's Section 3, which disqualifies individuals who have engaged in insurrection from holding certain positions of power, has rarely been invoked. Until now. What makes this ruling even more intriguing is the potential ripple effects it may have on the electoral landscape. Other states are watching closely, and some are already considering similar action. It's a legal and political tightrope, and the entire nation is holding its breath as this drama unfolds. Now, it's important to note that the ruling is not without its detractors. Critics argue that it's a partisan move, an effort to quash Trump's political career. Supporters, on the other hand, see it as a necessary step to uphold the integrity of our democratic institutions. The stakes are high, the implications are vast, and the final outcome still very much up in the air. With appeals to higher courts in the works and a conservative majority U.S. Supreme Court yet to weigh in, the future of this ruling is as uncertain as it is fascinating. So let's delve into the chronology of events that led to this controversial decision. The journey to this ruling did not occur overnight. It's a culmination of several key events. Our story begins on the 6th of January, 2021, a day that would etch itself into the annals of American history. On this day, the U.S. Capitol was stormed, an event that many have since referred to as an insurrection. The involvement of the then-president, Donald Trump, in this incident would later become the crux of the legal battle in Colorado. Fast forward to the lawsuits that followed. They were built on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, a constitutional provision that disqualifies individuals who've engaged in insurrection from holding positions of power. The initial legal skirmishes saw Trump's defense team ardently contesting these claims. They argued that labeling January 6th as an insurrection was a mischaracterization, and that Trump was merely exercising his right to free speech. As the lawsuits made their way up the legal ladder, they eventually landed in the lap of the Colorado Supreme Court. The court, in a landmark 4-3 verdict, ruled that Donald Trump had indeed violated the 14th Amendment during the events of January 6th. This made him ineligible for election in Colorado's presidential primary. It was a decision that was as controversial as it was unprecedented, with the court partially overturning a previous ruling to reach this conclusion. What's crucial to note here is that the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling is not an isolated incident. Similar lawsuits are ongoing in other states, each attempting to disqualify Trump from their respective ballots. These cases, like the one in Colorado, hinge on the interpretation of the 14th Amendment and Trump's involvement in the January 6th incident. While the Colorado Supreme Court's decision is currently stayed until the 4th of January, pending review by a higher court, Trump's attorneys have already signaled their intention to appeal. The road to the ruling has been long and winding, filled with legal jargon, constitutional interpretations, and heated debates. Now that we've looked at how we got here, let's examine the potential implications of this ruling. Every decision has its consequences, and the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling is no exception. In the wake of the ruling, the first expected move is an appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Trump team's attorneys are already planning this course of action. With a conservative majority bench, it's unclear whether they will affirm the Colorado Supreme Court's decision. The U.S. Supreme Court's stance on this matter could set a precedent that will be keenly watched by all, especially the other states embroiled in similar lawsuits. The reaction of Trump's core supporters is another aspect to consider. The ruling, which Trump's campaign has portrayed as a democratic effort to quash his political career, could stoke the fires of their loyalty. Some conservatives and a portion of Trump's base oppose labeling January 6th as an insurrection. This ruling could intensify their opposition, possibly leading to increased support for Trump. If this happens, it could potentially backfire on the Democrats who might have hoped the ruling would discourage Trump's followers. Then there are independent voters. a demographic that often holds the balance of power in tight races. Their reaction to the ruling is uncertain. Will they be swayed by the court's decision and view Trump unfavorably, or will they see it as political maneuvering by the Democrats and thus not let it influence their opinion? Another dimension worth exploring is the possible impact on the Democratic Party. If the ruling boosts Trump's campaign instead of hampering it, Democrats may find themselves in a tougher battle than anticipated. This is especially true if the race ends up being a close one between Trump and Biden, as some polls suggest. The aftermath of this decision is still unfolding, but what could this mean for other states? Could this ruling embolden them to take similar action, leading to a domino effect? Or will the backlash and potential complications deter them? Only time will reveal the full impact of this historic decision. The Colorado ruling has set a precedent that other states might follow. Let's explore this possibility. As we dive into this, we find ourselves in a landscape of legal uncertainty and political tension. What Colorado has done is not only bold, but also unprecedented. This is the first time a presidential candidate has been barred under the 14th Amendment. Now, the question that arises is, will other states follow suit? This question takes us to the heart of the American political system, which is built on a complex web of state and federal laws. Each state has its autonomy, its own legal system, and its own criteria for disqualifying candidates. It's a delicate balance that has been maintained for centuries. Michigan, for instance, is currently facing a challenge from the same group that attempted to bar Trump in Minnesota. If Trump is barred from Michigan's ballot, it would tilt the political balance significantly, particularly if President Joe Biden is his opponent. The stakes are high, and the consequences could be far-reaching. But let's not forget about the conservative majority U.S. Supreme Court. While the Colorado Supreme Court has made its move, the final say lies with the highest court in the land. Legal experts believe there is a high likelihood that the U.S. Supreme Court will take up the case, considering its significance. The outcome, however, remains uncertain given the court's conservative majority. So what does this mean for the 2024 presidential election? If more states decide to disqualify Trump, it could potentially change the dynamics of the race. Trump's core supporters and some conservatives oppose labeling January 6th as an insurrection. The impact of the ruling on independent voters is unclear. A close race could turn into a landslide, or it could ignite a political firestorm. In the end, it all comes down to how the dominoes fall. Every action has a reaction, every cause has an effect. The Colorado ruling could either be the first domino to fall, sparking a chain reaction across the country, or it could be a standalone decision that fades into the annals of history. As we await the final verdict from the U.S. Supreme Court, we are left to ponder over the question we began with. So, was the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to remove Trump from the ballot justified? To answer this, we have to reflect on what we've discussed. The ruling is groundbreaking, marking the first time a presidential candidate has been barred under the 14th Amendment. The court decided that Trump's involvement in the January 6th incident disqualifies him for the presidency, a decision that has sparked intense debate across the nation. However, it's important to consider that this ruling is not the final word. Trump's team is planning to appeal the decision, and the conservative majority U.S. Supreme Court could potentially overturn it. Moreover, the Colorado decision has ignited similar cases in other states, creating a domino effect that could sway the political landscape of the upcoming election. The impact of this ruling on independent voters is unclear, and polls indicate a close race between Trump and Biden. Regardless of the final outcome, this ruling has undoubtedly stirred the political pot. Whether you agree or disagree with the ruling, one thing is certain: the 2024 presidential election will be one for the history books.